Hello, everyone. I wanted to share with you how grateful I am that there is so much magic and beauty in the world. And I've been studying just all the amazing discoveries that prove that everything, down to the smallest teeny atom, is filled with magic. And one of the studies I recently read is about these chickens. And they did a study where these chickens were given a certain amount of calcium, and then the chickens laid an egg. And what was interesting is they measured the calcium in the egg and the calcium that the chicken had consumed, and they found that it was actually more than the chicken actually consumed. This is called the Curvin effect, and what it means is that a biosystem from the results of this study can actually do a limited amount of transmutation. And where this is powerful to us is in the power of our thoughts and our mind. And that is when you think certain things, those things have a charge. And that charge can actually affect you on a biological level. Your emotions affect you on a biological level. So, what's beautiful about this study is it's showing that we can actually change our bodies, and all through the power of transmutation. So the next part of it is really interesting in that there was this Dr. Pat, and he did studies on different types of ways of interrupting light to create disease. And so he actually did this study on these onions, and he found that the little green part of the onion that goes up through the ground, because they grow underground, actually is like an antenna, and it receives light, and that light actually affects how it grows. So he's a little troublemaker, and he decides to take one of those antennas of the onion and he points it towards another onion. So then he digs up the onion and he looks at it, and it's got this funny little uh, area on it where it's actually what they call this in precancerous states called cell dysplasia, and it's where the cells actually mutate. So what happened was the onion, because it was pointed towards another onion, actually started to get basically the onion form of cancer because it wasn't receiving light through its antenna. It was actually receiving a different form of information. So it affected its ability to grow in a normal way. So he started doing all these other experiments on this and proved that light interruption, so that is the absorption of sun, because that's how we get our light here on this planet, actually can affect our body in an adverse way. He actually broke it down into these different parts, and that those parts actually are our scale of acidity and alkalinity. And there have been major studies. Dr. Gerson is one I know who has done some research, and Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center has done some research in alkalinity in the body through eating fresh fruits and vegetables and how that affects disease in the body. Cancer and other diseases in the body live in the place where there's less light. And when you eat a diet that's rich in vegetables and fruits and really clean water, then your body becomes very healthy and there's no disease in the body. And anytime that those light patterns are interrupted, when you have genetically modified organisms, or when you drink water that has other chemicals in it like fluoride, or when you have other heavy metals such as mercury, those things all create a more acidic state in the body, and that's interrupting the light, which is going to proliferate the chances or increase the chances of you having disease in your body. So what's interesting is taking it a step further, another doctor from the Soviet Union did some studies about these death photons. And what it is an electromagnetic signature of disease. And what that means is when you take a tissue sample that, let's say, is infected with the Ebola virus, that particular virus gives off a specific signature, an energy signature. So what he did was he took a healthy piece of tissue, put it in a petri dish, another healthy piece of tissue, put that in a petri dish, and then he put them in separate cells, and they were separated by a piece of glass. And the tissue that was diseased actually continued to stay diseased, and the tissue that was healthy continued to stay healthy. Then he actually changed it up. He took the same experiment, but instead he used a very thin cut piece of crystal. So it was like glass, like thin like glass. And then he put the tissue that was diseased on one side and completely separate. And then he put the tissue that was healthy on the other side, the other sample. And the sample that was unhealthy sent its death photon signature through the crystal glass. It was able to transfer the disease into the other. He did quite a few experiments, so he had to make sure that this result was replicated. So this doctor took that information and they started to do studies on how they could use this to transmit disease. So think of it this way, like military creating viruses that could be sent across radio waves, killing or hurting massive amounts of people. Sounds pretty horrible. But the good news is the reverse is also true. So when you take that same frequency and you put it through a process called phase conjugation. Phase conjugation is, in the simplest terms, imagine yourself looking in a mirror, just like your camera, would take a photograph of you and it looks exactly like you. Think of that versus a funhouse mirror. Like some funhouse mirrors might make you look more pear-shaped. They might distort your figure in some way or distort your facial features, or there's some that might even like replicate, and it all has to do with the way the light is being refracted back. And it's a series of different geometrical, mathematical formulations that actually refract the light back, that allows for that particular healing photon pattern to be reconstituted. So what's interesting about that is we can actually use this technology by taking viruses and using formulas of phase conjugation, which is what they use in digital photography and film. When you think about a projection, like in TV, they have to account the bending of the light around the lens and the landscape and what kind of shot you're getting. So imagine taking that same technology, and this is, of course, a very simplified way of explaining it. It's pretty complicated. Otherwise, we probably would have been doing this a million years ago. So imagine taking that technology and taking a virus like Ebola, or taking something like HIV, and then actually phase conjugating it, so reconstituting it into a healthy state, like healing it. This technology or these discoveries, if we keep going this direction, could actually heal. We can send healing patterns, and those healing patterns can actually be sent over radio waves, air waves, many different ways to masses of groups of people and heal them. And what's exciting about that is that that means that we could even eliminate the need for vaccinations. We could eliminate the need for antibiotics and for pretty much all pharmaceutical medications. So I am really excited for the future and wanted to share that with you. And I hope you keep sharing your light and healing the world. Take care.